Hey man, if you've ever sat across from a woman and wondered how to get her to open up, to go deeper, to drop the surface level talk, and actually let you into her emotional world, what you're looking for isn't pressure. It's not about asking her 20 questions. It's not about pushing for vulnerability. It's about something far more powerful, creating the conditions that make her want to open up first. And one of the most effective ways to do that without force, without manipulation, is through a subtle form of reverse psychology, not in a childish way, but in a way that shifts emotional responsibility back onto her without her even realizing it. You've got to understand something about how women process emotion. They don't open up to be understood. They open up when they feel safe in your presence. And ironically, one of the ways they feel safest is when you don't ask them to open up at all. That's the core of this trick. When you stop trying to get her to be vulnerable and instead become the one who doesn't need it, that's when she starts wanting to give it. Because now, her opening up isn't being pulled, it's being offered freely. That freedom is what makes her vulnerability real. And reverse psychology is the quiet invitation that opens that door. So how do you do it? You create an emotional frame where you expect nothing, but you carry yourself like a man who's used to women, eventually revealing everything. You drop phrases like, "Most people don't really open up around me until way later, it's cool either way." Or, "You don't have to explain. I usually figure people out just by how they move." Those statements sound chill, dismissive even, but what they really do is plant a seed that says, if you want to be seen, the space is here, but I'm not asking for it. That's when she starts leaning in. Reverse psychology works here because it triggers a subtle ego response. You're not directly asking her to reveal herself. You're indirectly implying that you're used to people hiding things and you're totally fine with it. But in her mind, something flips. Now, she's thinking, wait, I don't want to be like most people. I want to be the one who breaks through. And suddenly, she's the one trying to prove herself. Not because you challenged her, but because you gave her the freedom not to. You've probably noticed it before. When you push for answers, she shuts down. But when you seem emotionally detached, when you don't fill every silence, when you let conversations breathe, she starts speaking more. Why? Because now there's space for her to rise into. You're not chasing her words. You're holding a frame of stillness. And in that stillness, she doesn't feel judged. She doesn't feel rushed. She feels safe to step into your silence because it's not laced with pressure. This trick also flips the power dynamic. Most guys reveal everything first. They rush to share their past, their goals, their pain, hoping it will inspire her to do the same. But that creates imbalance. You're leading with emotional exposure while she's still deciding whether you're worthy of hers. But when you reverse that, when you give small pieces of yourself, but keep your core guarded, now she's the one leaning forward. She's the one wondering. She's the one thinking, why do I want to tell him things I haven't told anyone else? And the answer is simple, because you didn't ask her to. Another powerful way this works is in how you handle silence. Instead of filling gaps with reassurance or over-explaining, you let moments pass unfilled. That pause after she says something vulnerable, let it stretch. That second of eye contact after a deep comment, hold it. That refusal to instantly reply with your own story, keep it. Those small pauses signal emotional maturity. They say, you don't have to explain, I'm here. And that presence, mixed with nonchalance, creates a vibe where she wants to keep going. Not because you pulled, but because you left the door open. You also remove the emotional reward system. You don't act overly impressed when she shares something deep. You don't praise her for being open, you normalize it. Yeah, that makes sense. Or, got it. These short, calm acknowledgements say, I can handle your truth. You don't have to perform for connection. And that's rare, because most men react with excitement or sympathy the moment a woman gets vulnerable. But you stay neutral, grounded. That neutrality becomes magnetic, because now she feels like she can show you anything and you won't flinch. Reverse psychology also lives in your tone. When you talk about yourself, you don't dramatize, you don't overshare, you drop hints, fragments, let her connect the dots. There was a time I had to relearn how to trust people, but yeah, that's part of life. You don't need to explain the whole story. That little breadcrumb says, there's more here, but I don't give it away for free. And that energy, it makes her want to earn the rest. She starts opening up, not to match what you shared, but to pull more from you. That chase becomes a bond, built not on desperation, but mutual intrigue. And here's the best part. When you stop trying to get her to open up, she remembers you differently. You're not the guy who interviewed her. You're the guy who made her realize she had more to say. You're the one who gave her space without conditions, the one who listened without needing to relate, the one who said, without saying, you're free to share, but you're also free to stay quiet. And that freedom, that's what melts the emotional armor. That's what creates connection without pressure. That's what makes her open up first. Once she starts opening up, you do something that separates you from every other man. You don't use it as an invitation to take over the conversation. You don't hijack her vulnerability with your own stories. You don't suddenly try to bond through trauma. You just listen, fully, quietly. And in that space, she feels something she rarely feels with a man: emotional safety without emotional demand. You're not weaponizing what she shared. You're not turning it into an emotional transaction. You're just being there, fully present. And that stillness becomes the environment where her walls start to drop. Not because you knocked them down, but because you never tried to climb them in the first place. You'll start to notice that the more you allow her to come to you on her own terms, the more invested she becomes. She'll message you longer. She'll start bringing up topics that are more personal. She'll ask you things she wouldn't ask someone she just met. Why? Because reverse psychology made her feel like she made the choice. She doesn't feel pressured into intimacy. She feels curious enough to pursue it. And when a woman feels like she's opening the doors herself, she becomes emotionally attached to the freedom of the experience. You didn't demand anything. You simply created gravity, and she chose to lean in. Here's the thing. When she opens up first, she bonds faster. Because emotional disclosure is one of the fastest ways for a woman to build connection, but it only sticks when it feels earned, not extracted. You didn't corner her into it. You didn't overwhelm her with deep talk. You didn't ask 10 questions in a row. You respected the silence until she filled it, and in doing so, you became the man she trusts, without knowing why. Because she didn't just tell you something, she gave you something, and that giving, that's what binds her emotionally to your presence. This frame works especially well with emotionally guarded women, the ones who are used to men trying to break down their walls, because when you come in with detachment, with a soft edge and no pressure, you disarm her. She's waiting for the questions, the praise, the flattery, the probing, but instead, you just sit there calm, cool, slightly unreadable, not cold, just non-needy. That subtle indifference doesn't offend her, it challenges her. Now she's the one thinking, why does he feel so emotionally self-sufficient? And that tension, that imbalance, she starts solving it with her vulnerability. And don't be surprised when she opens up about things you didn't even expect, things she told no one else, things that seem like they came out of nowhere. That's the mark of real psychological tension. You didn't pry, but your energy invited truth. You weren't demanding vulnerability, you were safe enough to receive it. And when she sees that nothing she says rattles you, that you don't get weird, reactive, or overly intense, she starts giving more. Not out of fear, but because you've become the first man who didn't use her openness as leverage. You maintain this dynamic by never chasing emotional moments. Even after she opens up, you don't suddenly switch into over-validation mode. You don't reward her with praise for being vulnerable. You don't start pouring your heart out because she dropped one emotional detail. You keep that same calm posture. You receive it. You sit in it. You let it live in the air. And that stillness, that continuation of your unshakable energy, that's what keeps her coming back. Because now, you've become her emotional anchor, the place she feels seen without being seen through. There's a hidden benefit here too. When she opens up first, she starts to invest emotionally before you do. And that flips the usual script. Most guys pour out their emotional world too soon, trying to buy connection. But when she goes first, she's already attached before you've given her anything beyond presence. That dynamic puts you in the leadership role, not by control, but by emotional patience. And women crave that kind of stability, because it tells her, you don't need to carry both sides of this connection. I've got mine handled. One of the most attractive things a man can do is create emotional openness without emotional pressure. It's rare, it's powerful, and it's unforgettable. because most men either force vulnerability or avoid it entirely. But you sit in the middle, you offer safety through discipline, through stillness, through letting her come to you. And when she does, you don't reward her like she's a child. You honor her with respectful consistency. That's what separates the boy chasing closeness from the man creating real intimacy. Eventually she'll say it. Something like, "I don't know why I'm telling you all this," or "You just have this way about you." And that's when you know the reverse psychology landed. Not because you tricked her, but because you stopped trying to lead the emotional pace and started inviting her into yours. Now she's opened the door, and now if you choose to step in, she'll feel it as connection, not pressure. That's how emotional bonds are built on her terms, in your frame. So remember this, brother, the real trick to making her open up first isn't about manipulation, it's about nonchalance, stillness, and emotional gravity. You don't force the moment, you don't fish for feelings. You let silence do the talking. You stay calm, you stay low pressure, you say less but with more weight. And when you master that energy, women start revealing everything, not because you asked, but because your presence made them feel like they finally could.